Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever episode of the We're Young But Justice podcast. My name is Kyle Doctor. I'm the host of this shindig. And we had a great first episode today with my guest, Kris Lowery. He is the co-host of the Next Door Comic Store podcast. And we talked a little bit about MLB, current state of comics. So a couple of the topics in the MLB were covered were the Astros fiasco, which is, of course, ravaging across the sport world today. We talked about the horrific 2019 National League Division Series in the postseason because he's a Cardinals fan and I'm a Braves fan. So we had a little bit of fun with that. And we talked about the offseason regarding both teams, what we think the Cardinals should do, what the Braves should do, how the NL Central and the NL East are going to look. We dove into that and just how we felt about the team going into the respective teams going into 2020. And then we jumped right into our comics discussion. We talked about what were our favorite runs of the decade. We talked. Great names came up during the conversation: Jonathan Hickman, Donnie Cates, Brian Michael Bendis, Tom King, you name it. And then we jumped right into, of course, talk about Bendis. Is he ruining Superman? Is he as bad as they say? I don't think so. And we talk about that a lot. Of course, a lot about the current state of Marvel versus DC. Who had a stronger 2019? Who's going to have a stronger 2020? We have some opinions regarding that topic and how optimistic we feel regarding both of the big two companies. And, of course, what we're excited for. Spoilers, it involves X-Books. And we dive into that. So please enjoy. Listen up. Of course, this podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, maybe MySpace, AOL AIM. Listen to this podcast. Please subscribe for the future and enjoy. All right. This is going to be the first episode of the We're Young But Just Us podcast on the Sports Opinion Podcast network of podcasts. It's always weird to say. And I got my first guest, which I'm very grateful for, Kris Lowery. He's the co-host of the Next Door Comic Store podcast. Yeah, that's correct, right?
Yeah, Next Door Comic Store, yep.
Yep, and I think that's you and two other people, if I saw correctly on the Twitter profile.
Yeah, there's a third person now. That's our picture from the very beginning, and we haven't updated. We haven't taken another picture with our friend Sean. But it's me and three other guys, and it's just us having about as much fun as you can, sitting around talking about all this stuff at once, kind of.
All right. Well, we're going to test some of that knowledge, and not really. There's really a little bit of knowledge. That we'll save that for the end. But I'm excited to talk to you, and I think we got to jump right into it since this is a mix of both sports, comics, and basically anything else. I feel like it's appropriate to talk about. It's what's been happening in baseball for the past week, and obviously. The Astros have gotten their penalties, $5 million fine. AJ Hinch, the manager. I am blanking on the general manager real quick.
Jeff Lunau? Might be pronouncing it wrong, but I think.
Yeah, but they are both fired. I will get that name correctly. Lunlow, yeah.
Okay.
Lunau. Yeah, Lunau. Jeff Lunau, if I'm saying that correctly. And it's spilled over to other franchises now. Alex Cora has been fired by the Red Sox. Carlos Beltran, before managing a single game, is fired by the Mets. And it's just going down from here. Now we got players calling out, like actual MLB players calling out the Astros. And I was like, I've never seen anybody this happen before. So first thoughts on everything that's come out, especially like the players, like this is crazy.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I've never seen anything like this with players calling out, not just other players, but kind of the whole organization. I know Mike Clevenger put out a couple of tweets. One of them being, this is like the benefit of throwing hard. If MLB doesn't do more stuff for the organization, I'm just going to hit guys. And I think he circled the date on when they'll face Houston. Bellinger came out and said a couple of things. So I think that may just be a product of us having social media and can see this. But even in the old stories of other scandals, I haven't heard tons of people being like, players are super vocal about some of the things that were going on. So, yeah, that's definitely a big shocking thing to see other players just being so vocal about this whole thing.
Yeah, like right now I'm just going through because I'm in a group chat where we're just talking about this nonstop. So I posted Danny Valencia saying Houston asterisk. Let's see. There was another one. We got Tommy Pham. I got to find what he said, but Tommy Pham called him out. It's like these are active MLB players on other
Right.
teams. And the rumor, and this is just funny because the rumor right now, because I listened to a bunch of other podcasts like 755 for the Braves on the Athletic, they're
Mhm.
saying that it's just a mess to go after the players union, and the players union is not in a good relationship with Manfred and the craziness of it. But we
Mhm.
have players calling out other players. So I'm like, it's just a confusing situation because apparently they were afraid to go after the players union because it's a messy situation. But now other players want to call these players out, and they're posting pics of Altuve and all
Oh
that.
yeah, I was at work actually, and when it came out that they're wearing the buzzers, I got a notification, and my boss, he's my boss and my friend, and he's a big baseball fan. And the first thing we thought about, or it was the tweet from the burner account for that was posing as Carlos Beltran's niece, and she was like something to do with Chapman, and I thought back to that moment, and I was like, that's kind of crazy because I remember seeing a lot of people in that moment going like, the anticipation of Altuve there to be in that count and not be looking for a fastball from Chapman was just like an insane approach, and that's just he's just such a smart ball player to be in a 2-1 count against a Aroldis Chapman with the game on the line to say, I'm not going to look for a fastball here. He's going to throw me something off speed. And I instantly thought back to that. And I was like, if this is the buzzer, then, that kind of hype that we had around it and that whole, idea of how did he know that was coming? Nobody in the world would be guessing off speed from him there. It looks different now. Now I'm like, okay, so it's not that he had it figured out. He probably got the buzz. And then you see him coming to home plate after he hits the walk-off. He's motioning, not to take off the jersey. So, yeah, that whole thing, that whole at-bat, the whole situation is a mess.
It's unfortunate because this was a likable team. It
Right.
really
Yeah, I
was.
really liked him.
Because Altuve, the little guy that had power. I mean,
Right.
Bergman, Bregman. I always what's the word? Like oh god, now I'm blanking on the word of when you mix around words on a paper like letters on yeah. But yeah,
Dyslexia?
dyslexia. That's the right. Yeah, Bregman. But that team, Correa. I mean, and now that they are all tainted. I mean, the Red Sox. It's just like, yeah, everyone wants to see the Red Sox get in trouble. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we expect Boston to be dirty, and it's just like it's rewarding for us to see them in trouble. Nobody will ever admit it, but anybody that's not in Boston wants to see them lose or get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But the Astros is like they had something special, and it's just like any of these college teams that like do some really dirty stuff. It's like it's gotten taken away from us, even though 2017 will always be there. It's not going to be the same, and these players are just they're public enemy number one now.
I mean, yeah, every aspect of that is like under the microscope. I mean, you're looking at I've seen a billion graphics of people posting home and away numbers for the Astros and for teams that they're playing against in the playoffs. And I mean, like the disparity, like just the difference between the numbers is, it's huge. Like there are just huge differences between. I think there was like one of Kershaw on the road or in Minute Maid. He was at like 4 2/3, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, like an 11 point something ERA. And then, at Dodger Stadium, he'd gone like 11 innings, 3 walks, 15 Ks, and like a sub-1 ERA. So it's all of that kind of stuff now that, you could just chalk it up to, Kershaw, has a tendency to choke, or, it's tougher facing guys on the road and you have to take into account you're facing a DH in the AL. But I think all of that bit of like leeway is thrown out the window now. And you're like, oh, they're stealing signs. There's a buzzer. There's
Yeah,
everything that you can kind of give this team that you used to give this team to just be like, they really went from being this team that's an NL Central finishing, last place to going to the American League and just building this team that's, a championship caliber team. Now it's just all out the window.
yeah. This was the model for the MLB. The Braves
Mm-hmm.
copied them. I mean, I guess the Cubs were going at the same time, but yeah. Well, I think the Braves are a key example of they saw the Astros and they did what they did, and it was
Right.
a model for everyone. And it brings up the question, like, of course, how long were they doing it and everything?
Mm-hmm.
and just the integrity of the game in general. But thankfully, I'm kind of reassured because, again, I'm referencing the same 755 Israel podcast. Erica Flaherty, he was referencing that unnamed, without naming anybody, that they players are trying to do this in the organization, and the manager or bench coach just flipped their shit and just like, this is not happening. So it gives me a little faith that this doesn't happen everywhere. But
I know it came out. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dan. You go ahead.
I was going to say, I was reading something earlier. I think Mike Schilt was on the radio, and he was talking about it. It's kind of the same thing that you said. It came up, and I think the Cardinals they kind of, caught on to this from other teams. It might have been during this season. And, it kind of came out when they're going through a stretch where they're just getting completely outscored by guys. And like, well, these guys are sign stealing in the, not the best way, not the way that's the best for the game. And so they kind of tossed around the idea for like 45 seconds. Like, how else are we going to compete? Do we, cheat? Do we, try to level the playing field? And they ultimately decided, not to. Just, we're not going to. I think Schultz said, like, we want to win, but we don't want to win, at any cost, or something like that. I can't remember the exact thing he was saying. He was basically saying, like, we of course want to win, but we're not going to do something that's going to go against the integrity of the game. So I'm kind of like you. I feel a little bit better knowing that not everyone is doing it, but at the same time, it kind of makes you feel bad because you're like, not everyone's doing it. There's like 5 teams doing it, and those 5 teams have just the brightest advantage over, the other 25 that are trying to do it the right way.
It's a scary situation once again for the league, who is still tarnished by the steroid era. And now we got another question of, is everyone doing it? Like, is everyone taking steroids? Who's not taking steroids? Who's not stealing signs? Who's not cheating the video system? Mm-hmm. And more importantly, like, what are you going to do about the replay system now? I mean, you got to fix the problem.
Right.
So it's interesting. Did you feel like they could have done more punishment-wise?
Oh, I certainly feel like it should have been way worse. I know people are bringing up wait, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I can hear. I was getting a call on my phone, and I was like, let me make sure I didn't cut out of this. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, I don't AJ Hinch and the GM getting fired doesn't really do it for him because, there wasn't an MLB sanctioned, firing. They suspended him for a year, and then the team owner came out and fired him. So the way I see it, it was just, you're going to lose a couple of draft picks, which I know are huge, but even then that's kind of a gamble. It's not a for sure thing. Who's to say that you don't draft Mark Appel 4 more times over those 2 years? No disrespect to Mark Appel. But, and then, $5 million, I think someone else said it was like $5 million to, a $1 billion team like that, $1 billion corporation. That's nothing, And
so, yeah,
I think they could have come down a bit harder. So
it's funny. I remember when the Braves got punished. I'm just like, I know it's a different situation, but like, I just thought of it right now. It's like, why not international money too? Like, I feel like there's more punishments you could do. And I mean, and if you felt hamstringed because you couldn't go after the players, I mean, I feel like there's a little more you can do, but I feel like they should have risked it because the backlash regarding the players is just too much right now. And I think they needed to investigate the players.
I think the buzzer situation, I think they should really look deeper into that. And I think that's a perfect chance to suspend players because I wanted players suspended for the banging, but the way I kind of looked at it, I was like, well, what if you're a player that you're not trying to take part in the cheating and they're just doing the banging regardless, and you just so happen to be up at the plate and they're banging, you can't really block it out. You can't combat it. If they're banging, it's coming. All you can do is, pretend like you don't know it's coming and make yourself look silly and be like, well, I didn't use the advantage of the cheating. So I guess that maybe made it a bit of a slippery slope. But yeah, this buzzer thing, I think everybody who, I don't know how you'd go about finding out about the buzzer. I'm sure there's video evidence we can look at, and there's, some intense questioning we can do. And anybody, caught using the buzzer, I think has to get a severe punishment. I would go so far as just like bare minimum a year suspension. I know it seems kind of intense, but I mean, you won a World Series and you've got all these accolades. Yeah, I think all like the awards should be stripped, from those players. Silver Sluggers, whatever they kind of got over that span, should be taken away off the bat. those are just some of the small things that I can think of now that we've got another situation that, there's intent behind it. You can't really draw a lot of intent behind the bang because, again, if Evan Gaddis wanted to play it the right way, if they're banging anyway, what can you really do about it?
This is an integrity question, and I feel like, lifetime bans could be handed out. It's a strong term, but we're talking about the integrity of the game, a World Series won in a very close series, and a very exciting series that's now taken away from us, basically, because we can't appreciate it for what it is anymore.
Game 5 was incredible. I think about that Game 5, like every time, since it's happened, the playoffs start, ramping up, I'm like, wow, that Game 5 of the World Series that year that was a lot of fun. That was probably one of the most fun games that I've seen since, this is my bias talking, probably Game 6 of the 2011 World Series. I was just like, all these other games are great, but, nothing's that. And then Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, I'm like, this is probably right behind this. And now I'm just like, I don't know if it means as much anymore.
Hey, honestly, unless you're a Rangers fan, there's no bias regarding that game. that it was you'd have to hate. I'm not on the Braves bandwagon of hating the Cardinals, because apparently a lot of people on Twitter have had bad experiences with the Cardinals. I am not in that group. I'm a Northeastern guy, so my hatred and my disdain lies for the Mets, Phillies, and a little bit the Yankees, but not as much anymore, but Red Sox, all those teams, because I never got the Cardinals. The Cubs, I'd rather see the Cubs lose. The Cardinals, I'm fine with. But I think back to the point, though, it's tarnished, and it's very sad to see, and I feel like MLB needs to be on top of that, and they might have to reopen the investigation just to save their own asses. So, but since we brought up the Cardinals, I think we might as well move on to we got to talk about it or one last time since it is a conflict of interest, the 2019 National Division Series. Might as well revisit it. And it's the funny. So I worked a lot of those games. So my job entails me to hook up a computer and watch these games a lot of times. Even when doing work, I will legit be productive and have these games on. And the first 4 games were, man, we were talking about the greatest League Division series ever. This was, you just remember watching those first 4 games?
Yeah, I remember. I know the first game, the game that Keuchel pitched. Did he pitch Game 1?
Yes, that was the one where it was 2-1 Braves for the longest time, and then the Cardinals exploded in the 8th with all those doubles.
Yeah, see, I do remember. I was actually at work too watching that, and my manager, who I was telling you about, he's a huge Braves fan, so he's not super strict on the whole, no phones at work type of thing, but it's normally a case where, just don't go over the top with it. But that game comes on, and he's like, Chris, I need you to pull the game up on your phone. I know you have it. And it's in the back playing, and we're being productive, but we're also like, okay, we're going to take this order. We're going to, run to the back. We're going to see what's going on. We'll come back up here. There's 27 people here. I was glued to those first 4 games. If I remember the matchup, I can probably tell you exactly where I was for all 4 of them. Those were exciting games.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then we had Game 2, which was like Game 1 was like, oh, the series is over. Cardinals won because God, I'm blanking on his name. He's Flaherty. He was pitching Game 2, and it was like, it's over. It's over. And then you have I want to say Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka come out and match him, and then they steal a few runs. And I was like, wow. They stole this game. It's like I wasn't on the sweep wagon, but everyone was pretty disparaged because he was Flaherty was unstoppable, and he still was. But
yeah, he was coming off that strong second half where I think he had like a sub-1 ERA. He was rolling in the playoffs still kind of hot. I think that was our biggest hope in the Cardinals, and we were just wondering, would he, keep rolling that way? Knowing just when a guy's got it, he's got it. On a long stretch like that. But looking at that lineup that the Braves had, we're like, our only chance with Soroka going out, who, even if Soroka isn't as great as he's been advertised, I think the stuff that he has makes it, a pretty tough matchup for a team like the Cardinals that's pretty on and off. They're pretty inconsistent, or they were last year. Hopefully things will be different. But, yeah, we were just like, Flaherty can't match his pace that he had, ending the second half. This will be pretty ugly. I'm going to be honest, but he came out and got matched by Mike Soroka. And Cardinals Twitter was feeling, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. You're in your shoes after game one. You're like, oh, it's over. There's no way.
I mean, it was tied to 1-1. It was like, damn, the Braves have a chance. And then game 3, and for me, was the best one ever. And a lot of people would say because the Braves, they're still, I mean, obviously, spoiler alert, if you're living under a rock, it's still 19 years since they've won a playoff series. So game 3 was exciting because I thought that game was over. The Braves weren't hitting at all. And then they have Dansby and Duvall having that rally. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. They could win game 4. And then game 4, Ozzie takes the home run in the lead. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to win the series. They are going to win the series. But thankfully, because the Cardinals were, I mean, obviously the pitching was amazing. And that was the game where it's like Ozuna is like, nah, we're good here. It's like, I'm going to, you guys get your stuff together. I mean, you guys get hot. I'm just going to hit some dingers until you guys get ready. And then they stole that game. And I was like, oh man, I was excited for game 5. I was like, people were, all the Twitter folks, like baseball pundits, are like, this is the best League Division series ever. This is insane. I mean, we're talking about like 95 Yankees Mariners. We're talking, goodness, all the the comebacks, like the Yankees on the A's and the Red Sox on the A's. Mm-hmm. But like, it's like, this is an amazing series. And if you're missing it, you're missing out on something special. And then let's go to Armageddon. So I'll give you my story first. I was at work and we had a bunch. So I work in a facilities job at the University of Louisville Student Center. And I had a setup to do. And I was like, all right, I can't get this computer up immediately. And I was waiting for it to load because about this bad boy for a while before I fixed it was slow. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll pull up my phone as I'm setting up this room. And all of a sudden I see it's 4-0. It's like, wait a minute, it's 7:10. I think it was like, okay, so 5 o'clock. I'm looking at it right now. It's only like 5 minutes after the game started. What the heck's going on? And then I looked at it again. I was like, and then I'm watching on my phone. And do you know what my first at bat I saw was?
Which one?
Can you guess?
Oh, let's see. I'm running through that inning in my head. I know it was the Fowler leadoff double. And then it was like 17 consecutive doubles after that.
You ready for this?
What at bat did you check in on?
Jack Flaherty clearing the bases. Oh, yeah. I was like, what? This is game 5. This is a winner take all. And you tell me this team is giving up 10 runs in the first inning at home to a team who didn't hit the entire series?
Oh. I think that was the craziest part about it. I mean, it's weird because it's this weird like situation where you look at this Cardinals team and they're so streaky and they're so on and off, and they'll do this. They'll have a stretch they won't play. I know we did against Cincinnati sometime in July or August. The Cardinals are down 6 runs or something like that, maybe a little bit less than that, and they just exploded for like 10 runs in an inning or something like that. Exploded and just. It was late in the game. They came all the way back, and I know it was capped off by like a Jose Martinez home run. And, I mean, that was a thing that was pretty common for this team, but you didn't really trust it because the team that we were facing, I was just like, the Braves are going to come in and they're not going to, they're going to have a little bit of energy coming off of the loss. They're going to be feeling the way about it. The antics at Yadier Molina pulled, or Acuna's going to be swinging out of his shoes at very first pitch. And I was like, they're going to take a 3-0 lead in the bottom of the first, and they're just going to pile it on after that. And then Dexter Fowler's like, hey, what if I just go double down the line, and then I just tell everyone else to do the same? And I was like, this could work.
Were they wearing a wire?
They might have been.
Well, they did it for only one game because, that NLCS. I mean, it was literally one game of the entire series, the entire postseason where that team came alive, because they struggled against the Braves for the first 4 games offensively, and then, you're talking about an even better pitching staff. I mean, the Braves is like an average pitching staff in my mind, but the Nationals, But yeah, I mean, come on, the narrative flipped. I mean, if the Braves won Game 5 or Game 4, in my mind, they could have won Game 4. Like, I'm looking at Carlos Martinez would have been the most hated person in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He almost blew the entire Game 1 lead, and he did blow the Game 3 lead.
Yep.
You threw him in the game, he just couldn't do anything. But now it's changed to the Cardinals stole another series from another team, like they've done for the entire decade. And the Braves are like, where do you go from here? And it's very negative because now it's a good transition because, I don't really want to go into the NLCS. We kind of know what happened. They just didn't show. They didn't show up, obviously. The Nationals were a way better team. But, it's a transition because now the offseason just changed. Instead of winning a playoff series, the Braves decided, and it's like Donaldson's gone and everybody's very conflicted on that. The free agent signers are like Cole Hamels, Darno, and Will Smith. And, I mean, it's just changed the whole offseason. So I'm personally not a fan of what the Braves are doing. But, I think we got to talk about, and I did some research on it last night, was Cardinals offseason too, because they've had some little turnover. What are your thoughts on, obviously, when I was looking at it, Ozuna and Waka, I guess, walked, but they had no money to pay him in the first place, and they're still hamstrung.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of where you're at with the Braves all season. I'm a little disappointed. I think there have been some small moves that they've made. I can't remember his name. He's a new guy. They signed a guy from the Korean League who looks like he's got some good stuff. I don't know. People are projecting him to be in the rotation. I think they may start him out in the bullpen. I don't know if it's come out what they're really planning to do, but I'm a little disappointed. And I know it's a situation where you don't have a ton of money to spend, but I think trading Martinez completely, I was so on it before. I was like, we'll see what they do. But after they trade Martinez, now I'm almost to the point where I'm disappointed if we don't, sign an Ozuna or, piece together an Arenado trade because, in the game when Anibal Sanchez essentially shoved it to us and was, throwing a perfect game or no hitter, Jose Martinez got the one lone hit. And I think that was, for all intents and purposes, Jose Martinez is probably one of the best hitters on the team. He couldn't play defense, and people say that they will there. I've spoke my part on that before. But as far as just, you need a guy to go up there and get a hit for you or to get something started, I mean, the center rallies throughout, the regular season. And again, in the game, we're getting no hit. Jose Martinez is the bright spot. He's the guy who's going to go up there and get a hit. So, we trade him for Liberatore, and now I'm just like, I don't think Paul Goldschmidt will have another down season. There are some bright spots in the offense, but now I'm just like, if you take away Jose Martinez just from last season, a lot of things are different. The season goes very differently. I don't know if we make the playoffs. We get no hit by Anibal Sanchez in, Game 3 of the NLCS, and it's really tricky. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do about maybe helping an offense that, struggled last year. I think Paul Goldschmidt finished third or fourth, and weighted runs, created in a couple of different things. And, if Ozuna doesn't come back, Colton Wong took a couple of steps offensively, which is good. Tommy Edman, emerged. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be another team that is going to have to be carried by the pitching. The offense is going to really revolve on what Paul Goldschmidt's going to do on any given day if we don't, do something to help those guys out.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario because I wrote a little puff piece, a little funny blog about if every team was a band for the 90s. and I was like, the Cardinals were Aerosmith because I said that for some reason they're still around. It's not their decade. Their music's not classic rock music isn't popular in the 90s. It's not everything. But guess what? They're still here doing their thing for no good reason. The Cardinals are in the playoffs and they won another series. And this team, after 2016, just looked like, we got to blow it up. We got to start over. Yeah. And, I mean, I think I'm still in the same scenario. It's like, unless they show up again and do their voodoo magic, as everyone says, I think personally, if they're hamstrung for cash, St. Louis everybody forgets St. Louis isn't always a lot of money there. And I think they might need to just decide that, hey, we're stuck. We might have to, for lack of better terms, Astros it and just start over. Not the cheating part, but that's again back to the original point. They were the model for success, and that's why it's sad. But do you think the Cardinals are close to rebuild?
I would say maybe not close to a rebuild. I certainly think that a lot does hinge on, again, what they do this off season and, how this upcoming season goes, because the Reds are putting together some pieces and the Reds are looking like they're going to be a team that's going to emerge. We can joke and say we will about the Cubs, but that's a team that I think is a couple of moves away from being okay again. They weren't really bad. I think they just kind of wore it on the chin in the 4-game series that we had against them. The Cardinals have a lot of good young players coming up, and the payroll's kind of stuffed with some contracts that, if these guys don't perform, you almost have to move them. The Goldschmidt deal was incredible when it happened, but yeah, I think that if this season is just a mess and we don't perform well and the Reds look like, they're one more move away from being on top of the Central, I think it would be a case where the Cardinals would try to move a lot of guys, try to, reset the payroll and go from there. I think it's this weird thing because they've kind of done this before, maybe not with moving guys, but this thing you kind of want to reset the payroll, but you want to stay competitive, So I could see, moving a lot of guys and maybe, keeping Goldschmidt there, try to keep an anchor in the lineup and let him be around the younger guys and, get whatever you get out of him. But I mean, the Carpenters and the guys like that, would probably be moved. And yeah, I mean, you just see what you get out of the team with lower payroll and a lot of young players. And, if we're good, we're good. If we're bad, Paul Goldschmidt's the only guy that we're really paying. And, we'll see what happens a couple years from now.
It is funny to think about. I didn't even think about when asking that question. It's like, yeah, the Cubs are like downhill. They don't know how to handle their success, and I'm happy to see it.
I'm very glad.
The Brewers are. I call them 9-inch nails in the postseason analysis because like 9-inch nails is one dude for most of the time. That's the Brewers. It's name another Brewer. It's Christian Yelich, and so like. Who knows? He wasn't he injured in the wild card game? If I'm correct,
he got hurt like a couple of weeks before. He got hit in the knee, I think. So
that's right.
In that wild card game,
and they lost literally because he wasn't there because the guy who was playing his position missed the ball. And can you believe that it changed the whole postseason because the Nationals just dominated their way through pretty much?
I think about that all the time, and like I know that. Baseball is just one of those games. I think how it's different from a lot of sports. Like everyone says it's a game of inches and all that. But I think that's a perfect moment to say, if that guy just fields that ground ball cleanly, I think he gets it in. What they score like 2 or 3 runs off of that, they took the lead.
It would have been I think it would have been. If I remember correctly, I might be overstating it, but I don't think they would have even tied the game. I think it might have just been a base hit, but they took the lead.
And it's like, so that changed the outlook completely. The Nationals, win that game, they advance, and they do whatever they do against the Dodgers. And that's another thing that it's just the resilience of that team and kind of the pitching just kind of finding a way to stay in. I mean, it's like you said, the entire shape of the playoffs was just completely shifted by routine ground ball being missed by a guy. And I think that's the beauty and like the beast, for lack of a better term, of baseball. You love it because, it's just this game where there's never anything that happens that doesn't really matter. I think every pitch counts to some degree, every play, every at-bat. And then you kind of hate it because you can be this team that's had this, this long run throughout the season. You've won 100-plus games and you've made all these moves and you've, worked hard, and then you get to, you get in a playoff series and, a guy pulls a, Bill Buckner, and then you're going home with an inflated payroll and, an MVP, and you're just kind of hanging around wondering, our season really came down to a ground ball being booted that would never happen in any situation other than, I guess, this one.
Yeah, it's really funny because we could easily be talking about, because I can pretty much assume, it's just by looking at the 4 teams and the way the playoffs went, the Dodgers, we could be talking about the Dodgers being screwed out of a third straight world title.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. And then you talk about the Reds. They're the only ones that seem like they're going upwards. I mean, the Pirates, somebody made the joke because they said the Pirates, they found that they had the best only winning record against the Astros in Houston last year. And I don't know if you're laughing because this tweet. The tweet was, you can't steal from a team that doesn't know what it's doing. And it was, oh my God. I think it was like a Steelers fan account said it, and I was like, oh, goodness. But, I mean, it's wide open still. The Reds are not there. So if the Cardinals are going to decide to rebuild, it's not this year because it's just too wide open still.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great baseball talk. And I feel like, it's a little bit wide open. 2020 is unpredictable. I feel like the Braves could easily be in third place because I just don't see the mix right now. Yeah, because I feel like they didn't do enough. Because I feel like you lose Donaldson. I mean, we could get Ozuna. Ozuna could happen.
That's true.
But they need that cleanup hitter because I'll admit it, I'm a hater of Markakis, but I can admit when he's producing and the man's only getting older. And he showed in the postseason he can't be there a lot sometimes. And he did it. I think he did it 2 years in a row. And, I mean, his fielding isn't the best, but you're talking about two guys and the two youngsters and Freddie Freeman who are just going to have to carry the team unless they make some moves. And then maybe Austin Riley produces. Hopefully he develops more, but I think they're plateauing and they need to decide. They need to, just on my mind, grow some balls and revisit because you haven't won a playoff series in 2 decades. You need to do something. Like you need to. This is when you get risky and you say, "All right, we got to do something," and we're willing to take that chance.
I think. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, I think that's what, as unbelievable and as, far out there that everyone says this, that kind of scenario with the Cardinals, I know it's not as long of a drought, but just this idea that, you kind of have to do something and not stick around this middle ground kind of makes me feel like if we could find a way to offset the money, which is a big thing, that the Cardinals would make a serious trade for Nolan Arenado. That's what, when we got Liberatore from the Rays, a lot of people say that's the kind of, pitching prospect that the Rockies would like. I think he's a top 3 or 4 left-handed pitching prospect. And, I've seen some videos. He's got really good stuff, so he's not, just there on the merit of he's played with a bunch of good guys. And so that kind of thing where you're saying, you just kind of have to grow up their balls and say we have to make a move. That's kind of how I felt with the Paul Goldschmidt deal because I know so many off seasons before they kicked the tire around like, yeah, we're interested in so-and-so. It's like, well, yeah, everybody's interested in a good player. So to actually, give up some pieces and acquire a guy like Goldschmidt, that kind of makes me look at the 5th year going on Cardinals talking about Arenado and saying, I think that if they don't do it now, I don't think they'll ever do it. But I think this might be, as far as the mindset that they're in, the pieces that we have, the best shot we'll ever have to make a splash for a guy like that. And I think it lines up well. He'd kind of like to play here. He's friends with Goldie. I know people like to bring back the Stanton situation, how, we had a chance to get him and he was kind of used the no trade clause and didn't want to come. But I saw a tweet that was interesting. I was like, Stanton wanted to be a celebrity, Arenado wants to. And Stanton wanted to go to the LAs or the New Yorks of the world where Arenado's that's a good city. That's a baseball city. There's, a guy I really like there. I think I could win there. So I think just that idea of you don't want to, sit in the middle ground for so long and decide, okay, I need to make a move. I need to do something is give me the best feeling I've ever had for not just the Cardinals, but really any team, making a serious move for Nolan Arenado.
Can they afford him? I forgot. They're hamstring. Can they afford him?
That's the thing. That's the big thing that I think that's what is the big, the big stopping point for the Cardinals. And now they just don't know what they'll do about the money. And that's what I'm saying. I do know that he's making $32.5 million a year. That would be nothing small to add to the payroll. I think there are a couple of smaller but harder moves here and there that you could maybe, do to, create some space. I know the Fowler deal, everyone says that nobody in the world would take that, but I think there's a deep enough farm system. It's not the best, but I think it's got enough good guys in it to where, if you can maybe find a team that, for better or for worse, just needs an outfielder, maybe you can kind of take them and, we'll throw in a prospect, you just take them, you eat the cash. And I think there are moves like that they would have to make before or even, after they get Arenado, okay, we have to immediately go to getting rid of, X, Y, and Z to keep the budget in any kind of place. So I guess right now, maybe not. But it's not a situation where I'm saying there's no way they could create the space for him. I think that it could happen, but we're just gonna have to wait and see, I guess.
I mean, for the Braves, it would be simple: take a gamble, move the prospects, because they have a
Yeah.
lot of money to spend still.
Yes,
because they got a sweet and deals for Acuna and Albies, which I think is just raw. I don't know how that happened. I mean, Albies for a long time. Like, if he becomes like this, imagine if he becomes like a 330 hitter, or like, I know average and 330. Like, I mean, I guess average doesn't really matter that much anymore. But like all this amazing,
we'll take it.
Yeah, this amazing hitter, and he's like, oh, I'm making, what was it, like 7 years for 62 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it was like, I mean, Braves have no excuse but to at least try to make some splashes. And if they think they can, I think you are in win now mode. You are the rebuild is over.
That core is incredible.
Yeah,
That's to me the best core in the game. I think, maybe the Astros, but we'll leave that alone. But I think not looking at that, that's probably the best core. I mean, even DeSoto County legend Austin Riley. I mean, you take a guy who's kind of on the outskirts of it, and you look at okay, the guy's got a little bit of pop. He can play a couple positions. He's not bad. He can cut down the strikeouts. But even some of the guys on the outskirts that you're kind of iffy about are still really good. He's a guy who was an iffy, I don't know, I'm going to get out of him hitter, and he played once a week and hit 20 home runs for you guys last year.
Oh, it's amazing. That's why we want more consistency. He can't, then Donaldson wouldn't hurt anymore. Maybe they do believe in him a lot. I mean, it's interesting to see. And, right now, unless the Braves do something or just show that these players that develop, are consistently developing or playing at a consistent level, yeah, they can be in the wild card and division picture. I mean, they beat the Nationals last year too. So for that role, I mean, it could happen. And then, of course, the NL Central is it's still wide open. And that's that. I mean, and that's baseball, fellas. Right? I mean, way too early to predict anything. So I'm not going to get into that mess because I suck at predicting anyway. And I cannot guess, so I might as well transition out of sports talks to the nerd talk. I think I might as well, since it's beginning of 2020. Did you think a certain run stand out to you, Marvel or DC, the past decade that was like, wow, like this is like, I'm going to pick this up a lot, like the best run of 2010s?
2010s. That's a tough one because I'm blanking on them now. There are a couple that I'm thinking of, some that kind of stood out. This is tough. My brain is immediately going to some of the ones from last year that I kind of just bounced around on. I'm having recency, but I'll say there were a couple last year. I can't remember the exact title. There's that Venom run that was going on last year.
Yeah, Donnie Cates.
Yeah, Donnie Cates came and did a Venom run. I thought that was good. I think there was he did a Thanos run. It might have been a little bit. It wasn't last year. It might have been like the end of 2018 going into last year. That was weird and different. And there was this this different kind of take on Thanos with the Ghost Rider stuff. It's stuff that nobody would ever kind of piece together. I think I'm a big fan of some of like the weirder things that they tried with people over this decade, rather than just sticking with the basic ideas of the character, which I'm always a fan of. But I think some characters got taken into some different territories, and not all of it worked, and a couple times it did work. And I think those are the things that are standing out to me the most. I'm blanking out on some of the names and the runs in specific, but I'm like envisioning all these things like, oh, wow, they really took this character and they did this with them. And it was not anything that I would have expected when I opened up the comic, and now I'm reading. I'm like, that's interesting, and it worked. So I think that those are some of the most memorable things for me from this decade. Again, I'm sorry I'm blinking out. I'm not naming names. It's one of those cases where there's just a lot of them going on, and I'm not thinking of the run names. I'm just certainly picturing a lot of things that are interesting to me.
Yeah, so honestly, I started pretty much. So I'm catching up. I'm 2019 pretty much. Like, I was reading in 2016, 17. I was going through a phase, but I was kind of like being ignorant, picking up every book, and I think I was just like oversaturating myself. I really dug in deep last year and started reading everything, and I think recency bias and everything says, I know it's half 2000s, half 2010s, but I just don't care. I gotta go with Hickman's Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just. I mean, I'm reading the Avengers right now, and it's a little bit of an adjustment. And I mean, the man. I mean, he's taken. I'm seeing like, wow, he's watching the MCU movies, and like he's taken some of the funny quotes. I think he talked about. He referenced the Avengers film when talking to. If you remember, the Infinity. If you ever did you read Hickman's Avengers?
From it's recent? No, I don't think so.
All right, it's 2012 to 2015. It ended with Secret Wars.
Oh, the newer Secret Wars? No, I don't have. I think I've got some of the newer Secret Wars, but I haven't. I didn't read Hickman's Avengers one. But go ahead.
So yeah, in Infinity, they made like there was the world builders, and that was one of the enemies, and Thanos was another enemy. And he was like, says to Thor as he's kneeling down, it's like, "Isn't this your natural state?" And I forget the whole Loki line from the literally it was the exact line. And I was reading Infinity. I finished it up last night, my overnight shift, and I was like, "Wow, this is Infinity War. This is more Infinity War than the Infinity Gauntlet." Like these battle scenes are literally. And I looked it up. I was like, "Who did they thank in the credits?" It's like, here's Jonathan Hickman, Steve Epting, and all Jeremy Opeña, because they literally took from Infinity. But Jonathan Hickman, I mean, he's just probably like the best guy for the decade for me because I'm catching up everything. X-Men has just been recently, but I think Fantastic Four is probably nothing will pass it for me in terms of Marvel. It's just like I think Fantastic Four might be ruined for me now because I don't think I can read anything else. Like it was just he was being like crazy scientific. He was diving into all these subjects, and then he was also making you cry with these amazing issues of. I guess Ben Grimm being human for a day, Human Torch dying. He had Spider-Man in the books, and he was writing a really good Spider-Man. But Jonathan Hickman just proves like he was the guy. I mean, you put him up there. It's the number one guy of the 2010s. I mean, like him. Like when you define the decade, we're talking Scott Snyder on Batman and Dark Knight's Metal. Him, Tom King. I'm a fan. I'll defend Tom King any day.
I was going to say, I've seen recently they've killed him over some of the Batman stuff, and I'm just like, listen, you can't sit here and read this and tell me that you haven't read much. Like, it's not as bad as I think people make it out there. I'm kind of I'll defend it. It's not terrible, and I think it's weird because we're in this weird space with the movies being so big. They've kind of created a lot of weird, maybe not misconceptions, but weird ideas for people who are a lot newer to comics as a whole. And they've got these, kind of different ideas for what characters should do or what they'd like to see them do. And I think anytime a person doesn't go along with that, it's, you don't understand the character or so-and-so is ruining this character. And it's just,
oh, goodness.
Read something else.
Don't get me started. Did you see my Bendis rant on Twitter, I think a couple weeks ago?
A couple of weeks ago? No, I saw you tweeting a couple of days ago about it, but run me through your rant a couple of weeks ago. Let's hear it.
I mean, I was like, some video popped. It was a 20, 30-minute video. Like, this guy was dedicated on talking about how Brian Michael Bendis ruined Superman.
Okay, that's been popping up on my feed, too. I was going to ask you if you'd seen that's funny. I hadn't clicked on it yet, but I saw that, What was you saying?
Here's I didn't watch it because I'm like, I know what he's going to say. Jonathan Kent's aged up. Lois Lane, I guess, is being a bad mom or whatever and all this stuff. And Superman's being non-Superman-like, which he's not. I don't know if that's the actual critic, but I've been reading some of this stuff. I'm not the biggest Superman fan in the world, but I'm a Bendis fan, so I pick up some of these issues now and again. But it's like, he's an 80-year-old character. You can't ruin an 80-year-old character. Like,
there's things to read. Go read something you like. Just. Do
you remember the New 52? I mean, I'm not even going to rag on that. It was another take. And another take. And guess what? A lot of people on Reddit defend that run. And they're like, man, that's my Superman. I got my man, Brett Booth. I think he's an amazing artist. He gets a lot of flack, but he's amazing in my book. He loves Zack Snyder's Superman. That's his favorite Superman. And I defended that too. It's like, he did a difference in Zack Snyder and I guess Bendis, but Bendis isn't really changing it like Snyder did. It's a different take on the character. It's 80 years. You can't be doing the same thing over and over again. And he's not ruining a character. Can you have a bad run? Yes, you can have a bad run. Read the New 52 Teen Titans. It's garbage. I mean, but it's just you don't ruin the character. You can't ruin that a property like that, because I mean I get the same thing. It's like he had maybe a 2010s where we're not as strong as Bendis' 2000s. I mean, come on, you had Ultimate Spider-Man the decade before, his new Avengers, the Illuminati, Daredevil, Jessica Jones. Yeah, he kind of he oversaturated himself a bit in the 2010s. But come on, I think a lot of this is lingering hate for Bendis, in my opinion. I mean, his DC stuff is not bad at all. I mean, it's kind of I haven't read any of the Marvel stuff from the saturated area. I know I'm going to hit it eventually, but I think it's really refreshing for him to do it. I think he's doing a lot of great stuff, and even his Legion, like people like make a living out of. I'm going to rant on Legion, and Bendis is doing this. Like the Legion haven't had a good book since before the New 52. I mean, he brought him back, and he's not writing a bad book by far. I know you told me you're not getting it. I promise you will like Legion. I mean, I told someone it's the same with New Mutants. I never read New Mutants, and I'm reading Hickman's right now. I don't know any of these characters, but I am hooked on both of these books, and I don't know a single character. And it's just they're both doing this. Like he's doing a style that I find is really fitting, but a lot of people just hate Bendis. What's your opinion on that?
People just hate it. I mean, I think it really goes back to what you're saying. I think people get this idea that he's ruining characters, or like I said, if you take a character in a direction that people don't like because it doesn't mesh with, the decades of source material, it's this weird thing where you're ruining them and you don't understand the character. I think like with guys like Bendis, when they do make changes to characters, I think they do a good enough job making it make sense. Like if you change the world around them, if you leave Superman in, the golden age and you just write him like New 52 Superman, yeah, it's going to be awful. It's going to be this weird, terrible thing. But I think when you change the world, around the character, and that can kind of reflect in the changes that you make, I don't think it's as bad as, oh, you're ruining the character, because it goes beyond that character to me. It's, you're telling the whole world in a different way. And so it's not just this thing where you're making this character completely inconsistent with the source material. I think it's, you're putting this character in a new environment, and you're taking what you do know about this character and you're, describing him and showing his actions and how things around him would be, in that regard. So I do think he just gets a lot of flack for people wanting a certain thing because that's how it's been, you said for the 80 years, and it's not that perfect, this perfect idea of Lois and Clark and and the Kent family, and it's not ruined to me. I think it's fine. I don't think he's doing anything.
I think he tells his stories in a different decompressed dialogue way. I mean, I feel like that dialogue fits me. I feel like a lot of people's like, oh, people like it's a weird way to talk, and I feel like the opposite is like, wow, this is how I talk. Like maybe I'm just a broken talker. I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember my conversations going that way a lot of times. I mean, it feels real to me. I think a lot of stuff he just gets a hate for, because I promise you, if we're talking about little things, and this is no rag on Hickman, because I will read anything that man writes. If Hickman did the same thing Bendis did, like in one thing, if Bendis got real for one thing and Hickman did the same thing in another book, I promise you, and he wouldn't get mentioned.
No, yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Bendis does. He does his own things. I know the continuity complaints a lot, and I think the only reason he gets a lot of hate, other than that, I guess people that are really mad at his Civil War II still and all that stuff.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know.
Oh no!
Oh, I know. Oh yeah, Carol Danvers. Oh yeah, she just doesn't act like herself.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the word because I can't think of any other word. She's just a raging a-hole now. She makes no sense. I mean, yes, sometimes it will happen. The best writers, just they don't understand the characters a lot of times. Sometimes it happens. I mean, come on. Even Jeff Johns, the DC god, has written a bad story before. It's just I think he gets a lot of hate, mainly because for Superman, for a reason that's not his fault. And if anybody's, it's DC's, because he took over from Tomasi, Gleason, and Dan Jurgens. I don't know if you read those runs, but people loved them.
Mhm.
Like, that was a very popular Rebirth run, and a lot of people just dug the entire run, and they were sad when it ended because Bendis was taking over. And honestly, I think it's on, and that is on DC, because DC could have honestly said to Bendis, Superman's unavailable. I mean, that's on DC. That's not on Bendis. He asked, like, when he's leaving, when he was done with Marvel and that whole fiasco of just, I guess, the books just not being the quality they were, and both Marvel and Bendis was older. He was looking to try some new scenarios. I think that's what he said. And DC could have said Superman's unavailable right now. Easily said it. But they said, Bendis, go ahead. Here's Superman. Here's Action Comics. Do your mini series before Man of Steel, and go ahead. It's not. I don't blame Bendis one bit for that run, their Rebirth run ending. That's DC could have easily said no, in my book.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think that we do need to, at times, put some blame on the people running these businesses, the people that are the heads of the Marvels, the DCs, or whatever. When a run comes out, it's like, say, you can just be like, this is unavailable right now. What else did you have in mind? What else did you want to try? What about all these other things that you can maybe do? So,
I mean, I could think of a million. I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. He's Bendis. He's going to do the big fish. But honestly, like, I think there were, like, at the time he came over, 2018, there were a couple of books that were big name characters that just weren't doing anything. I mean, I feel like he could have honestly, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to judge what's a big book or not because it's Superman. I mean, I don't want to compare and contrast. I mean, it could have easily. People say, I want to read a Bendis Nightwing. I want to read a Bendis Green Arrow because he fits that. I mean, I doubt he would have come. Hey, Bendis, you're running like the entire Avengers line. You want to write Nightwing? Oh no, yeah, that's a jump he'll take. I mean, I hope he does Nightwing in the future. A lot of people do, because he's kind of down in the dumps right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't blame him a bit. It's just a lot going on, and I think he didn't have the strongest decade, but I feel like we're gonna get a lot of fun from Legion with him in the future 2020s, and his Wonder Comics line is pretty amazing. I haven't read all the books right now, but people are just loving the imprint. If you want to check those out.
Yeah, I'm going to try to catch up and get into the comic shop and get some things that I'm missing. Like I said, I've missed almost all of, House of X and Powers of X because they had like 3, 4, 5, 6 or something like that. I know for a fact they didn't have 1 and 2. And I know they might have had 3 and they just kind of had it spaced around, and I'd been checking in, and I don't want to, but it's almost to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to give up on it because Hickman back on X-Men, when the announcement came out, I was like, I'm going to be right there on the doorstep before they even open. Like, you can hand me the key and I'll do this for you if you need to. Like,
Nice.
I've been here for 17 hours straight, so let me in. And so it's just a sucky situation that I'm not getting to read them. I don't know how, but I have avoided almost all spoilers. I think I saw that Storm, I think, is an Omega level mutant now, but other than that, I haven't had anything, ruined for me. So,
okay, since we're not going to talk about it, but I will tell you, you know what issue that was from? Do you want to know? And it's gonna make you very sad. The first House of X issue.
Oh no!
the last page of the first House of X, Hickman's like, people want to know Omega mutants. Here are the Omega level mutants. You need to get your hands on it. I'm looking at it right now on my bookshelf. The giant House and Powers hardcover, which is just towering over the rest of my trade paperbacks. Because I just fixed the X-Men and Hickman's ego, I guess, to be bigger than all the other books.
Yes, but that's fine with me.
Yeah. I wish I could talk about it with you, man. I'm just telling you, read it. It's really a welcome change. If you just are digging Hickman, if you read the Avengers, if you caught any of that, if you read Fantastic Four, and if you just like the X-Men, I mean, it's a topic that hasn't been explored, and it's very Hickman-y. I mean, he does not hold back.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best. should be able to get my hands on them, now that, he's kind of ventured into some other things. They should have some. And, I'm always open to coming back and we can talk about this again because I'm having so much fun speaking with you about all these things. The baseball, and I think with most of my friends, it's like one of you. I think you're my only friend where we can transition between two. So, go from talking about baseball and, the NLDS, and then I was like, okay, what do you think about Hickman and Bendis? And I was like, this is completely uncharted territory. I've never had this conversation.
It's crazy. I mean, that's the way my mind works. I mean, could Hickman run the Astros? Hickman's I know other than sports wise, Hickman is a big Clemson guy. So I don't know if he's kind of sad.
Oh boy. Look, I gauge any football game by how much Jonathan Hickman probably enjoyed it. I think it was like the playoff, some of the games a couple Saturdays ago. I think he tweeted out about like, wow, what an exciting day of football. And I was like, Jonathan Hickman enjoyed these games, therefore they have value. That is all. If Jonathan Hickman didn't enjoy these games, these would be absolutely worthless. These are the worst sporting events in history. It has the Hickman cosign. So, congratulations to Deshaun Watson.
Here's my San Diego Comic-Con experience. Mr. Hickman, who would be a better Clemson quarterback, Trevor Lawrence or Franklin Richards?
It's an interesting dialogue we're gonna have to start. We need answers on this.
Who's the higher Omega level being, Trevor Lawrence or Franklin Richards?
How much time do you have?
Yeah, I feel like, oh my god, it's just funny. Like, oh my god, I've never seen him conversations, but it's like, I feel like you go on it the way Grant Morrison goes on about random supernatural crap. I found like a half-hour video of him talking about the way we were born and how far it goes back and how, oh god, it was such a. I showed it to my coworkers. It's like, listen to this guy's speech, and it's a Scottish bald guy talking about life and going backwards on it and just explaining how everything is real. This was like, wow, this guy wrote the best Batman run ever. All right. So I guess on the other topic, so I think we both it's an easy verdict to say that Marvel won 2019. I think it's a flat out thing. Between the two, they won.
I guess we'll give it to him because DC just had there was just a lot of controversy around even some of the bigger things that DC, tried to do. I think even with Doomsday Clock, how I know that's been running for longer than just 2019, but I think stuff that DC put out that you thought would just be enjoyed by everyone. People are pretty divided on. A lot of people had issues, but with Marvel, I think, I don't want to say they played it safe, but they used a lot of characters that, seemed like something that people like. I don't think there's a big dialogue being started over a lot of the Marvel stuff last year. I think DC kind of just lost out because people could never just, find the things that they enjoyed and kind of go with that. And I think everyone was arguing about literally a wide majority of what DC put out last year. I think Marvel will say they won it just because people were pretty happy and content with, what they got out of them last year.
I think they won because simply I didn't read a lot of Marvel last year. That's my 2020 resolution, and there are a decent amount of Marvel books on the poll now. But like the thing about DC was they went stagnant. They just like lost their track, and they had all these books that weren't connected to each other a lot of times. I mean, I feel like I didn't read it because I just didn't have any interest in Scott Snyder's Justice League. I mean, it's just like I'm not interested in and I was thinking about this when reading Hickman's Avengers last night. I see Legion of Doom versus Justice League, and I feel like that's been the topic since the little television show came out back in the 60s and 70s. And I mean, like Hickman's like in that Avengers book was exploring like new enemies and new supernatural stuff, like and thinking back to Grant Morrison's JLA run of just exploring the weird and doing something different. Whereas Marvel was like, Donny Cates, go trip on LSD and write Silver Surfer Black. And Hickman, Hickman's like, I'm going to rein in all the X books. We're going to have this amazing summit. I mean, come on, going into this year, Donny Cates' Thor, that first issue was amazing. Matthew Rosenberg's Hawkeye, that was hilarious. I have more optimism. I'm excited to see the Fantastic Four X-Men miniseries from Chip Zdarsky. I mean, Zdarsky's writing a good Daredevil. I mean, I feel like there's a lot going on at Marvel. like creative wise, and I think there's a lot of fun stuff going on where DC's like just trying to work out a plan where like I'm on like Legion. I'm excited about Legion. Bendis is Young Justice. Those are my favorite characters.
Yeah, I've seen you talk about that a lot.
So a lot. Those are my guys.
Get my hands on that.
You got first off, you got to get the Peter David run, that original '90s run. That was like it's amazing. But Bendis, it's a slow build, but I feel like we're getting somewhere in Young Justice, and I feel like it's getting better since like issue 10. And he's added a co-writer, so he's got a lot of on his plate right now. So I feel like maybe Young Justice kind of fell to the back burner a bit because Legion and Superman. But no, I think it's good. But I feel like I kind of desire a little bit more of DC this year. And I still think unless DC pulls something out of the hat, Marvel's gonna have a stronger 2020. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's like you said, it's just kind of to pull something off. I don't know what I'm trying to like. I pictured things. I was like, what would just be something that would just be so, close to that Donny Cates level of here's something that's just absolutely insane, but people will probably love it. And I can't not that I can't think of anything. I'm thinking of something that like be realistically done to kind of just give them that push of that just really, really out there weird kind of story that they could kind of do. Just like something just really creative. I don't know. If you could just put somebody on something right now, it's like, here, go sit in your room and make whatever you want out of this in your DC. What are you doing? Who are you sending to do it, and what characters you give them?
I mean, look, I got to credit DC on something because I totally forgot. 2020 is going to be good because we got Strange Adventures coming from Tom King, Mitch Gerards, and Doc Shaner. And it's like, wow, that's a super team. And they killed it on Mr. Miracle and Vision and Omega Man. I was like, this is the next one for Tom King, like the next Maxi. Deceased was really good. Tom Taylor might be one of the best writers DC has right now. He did Deceased, which was amazing, and Suicide Squad looks like, I don't even like these characters, but it's just Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor did Injustice and all that. It's like, if they give this guy more books, I'm excited. I'm not the biggest Scott Snyder fan, so that I'm kind of like, I might jump on Justice League when he's off to see what Venditti does, because apparently Venditti's pretty strong right now, and I liked his Green Lantern Corps run. But it's just, I got to see DC have a plan and do something out there. I want to see Bendis' stuff come together a lot more. I feel like he's definitely working on something. Tom King, I'm curious on where the Batman run's going to go after James Tynion and the Ford is finished with that interim run. And, I think Marvel, I mean, the X-Men books are going to rule this year, and I'm curious on it. And if we're going to get that, if we're going to get an event, because I was trying to calculate on the Avengers how long it took before Infinity happened. So I'm curious on when that first event's going to happen. But yeah, I'm thinking, I'm going to agree with you that Marvel is going to have the better year. So, all right, let's end this on a little bit of a fun note, because I want to test the waters with you and see if this works.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so would you say have you read a lot of X-Men in the past?
No, I wouldn't say I've read a ton of X-Men. I think a good bit about them. Sorry. I think, I'll just flat out say no. No reason to go into a deeper explanation. I was going to get into my history and how I've kind of come around. But go ahead. Yeah, I would say I probably haven't read a ton.
All right. I guess I should have asked you before you came on what your actually favorite comic run is of all time. But you know what? I might as well play this game as in if they are an X-Men mutant or a St. Louis Cardinal from all time. All right. So we'll do 5. We'll do like 5, and depending on if it goes low. All right. Would you say you're ready?
I think so, yeah. So, okay, if you're going to just give me the name.
I'm giving you only a name. Only a name, and if they are a mutant. Obviously, I'm not going to cheat and give you female mutant names. I'm not making it that easy. All right. Let's start off. Mike O'Neill.
Oof, Mike O'Neill. Part of me wants to say that's a Cardinal player because Tyler O'Neill, but I don't think his dad played hockey, actually. Mike O'Neill. I'm going to go mutant.
Cardinal.
Oh, see, this is what's gonna happen. I'm
Okay.
gonna feel it because I'm gonna be like, okay, I know this name. I've seen this on a page, or I've heard this name on an old broadcast or something, and I'm gonna say the exact opposite thing. So I'm just be prepared. I'm gonna go 0 for 5, and then but I'm gonna start off with the right answer.
All
And
right.
I'm just gonna
Oh, this might be tough if you know new names, because it is a very baseball name. Oh, I just gave it away. I gave it away. It's a very. I'm not going to reveal it because it could be a baseball player, but it's a very confusing name. Or not confusing. It's a very like up in the air. Kurt Wagner.
Come on, that's a mutant.
You said, "Oh no!" See, we're off to a great start already. I gave you an easy one. All right. Sam Guthrie.
Ooh. Okay. See, this is one of those names, and I'm just like, oh man. I just feel like I know I've seen Sam Guthrie on a page before, but at the same time, Sam Guthrie. I'm going to default to mutant again. I said mutant 3 times in a row.
Congratulations, you're correct.
Okay, there we go.
And you want to know what he is? He's like one of the biggest New Mutants. He's Cannonball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. I was happy to see him in Avengers. I'm bringing up the Avengers run I'm reading right now because it's what I'm reading. All right, let's. Okay, Jack Calhoun.
Here's the tricky thing about these names. So many of these names, they're names that there's a current baseball player with. So when I hear them, my first instinct is now going to baseball. We had O'Neill, then we had, Wagner, then we had Guthrie, and now we've got a Calhoun. And so now I'm just like, I'm picturing Cole Calhoun, but he's not a Cardinal. I'm just like, I'm hearing these names, and I'm like, my brain is defaulting to baseball, but I'm like, I know this is a mutant. I've read this somewhere. I just know for a fact. I'm going to go a baseball player. I'm going to say this is a former Cardinal.
Yes.
Okay,
and I'm mean because I didn't look at the year. He was only a third baseman in 1902. So
I was going to say, he was on a super old team. I know this for a fact.
All right, so that's 4 right now, if I'm correct. All right, let's.
I think I'm 2 and 2.
All right, you ready? Last one.
Tiebreaker.
Last one. So let's see if you're gonna win. And I'm gonna make. I'm gonna decide if I want to go for if I'm gonna be mean or if I'm gonna do something you could answer. Alrighty. Let's look to see. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Mike Maruff.
Ooh. Mike. I think that's a mutant. That sounds like that's a mutant. That's a guy who's very familiar with Magneto to some degree, I feel.
He was a pitcher on the 2007 Cardinals.
No! No!
All right, so first time playing this. You're the first guest, so I had to test the waters to see. I think it was. I thought it might be a little
fun. You got to keep this up. You have to find a way to keep this working. This is great.
You ready to who I'm going to play that game with next, and who I actually have lined up for the next episode?
Oh, let's hear it.
Oh my God, I'm going to butcher his name, and I'm sorry if he listens to this. Fabian Nicieza.
Oh.
Yes, the co-creator of Deadpool.
Oh.
Yes.
That'll be a tie.
Oh my God, I got him. I was like, hey, I met him at the Louisville Galaxy Con 2 months ago. We talked about we didn't even talk about comics that much. We talked about because he's from New Jersey like me. I was like, damn, because he saw me wearing my jacket. We talked about I guess Rutgers sports and all that, and we talked about I guess my favorite character, Tim Drake. I was looking for I don't have any in this sign. I've been looking for your run on this. And it was like I was like, dang, it's only the second episode, and I'm very excited that he said he's willing to do it. So I will see.
That's gonna be awesome.
I will see if he's. We'll do the 5. We'll see if he's better at it, and if he beats your score this time around. So I guess since we're at the end, I guess the thing I want to do on everything is obviously first off, you want to plug your podcast and socials.
Yeah, so be sure to follow me at Next Door Comic Store. It's the Twitter handle, I think, is just NCDS Podcast. We are on the Anchor app, and we're on Spotify by the same name, Next Door Comic Store. The podcast part might not be in there. Follow me on Twitter at K_easy13. That's really it. If you
And the one other thing is, do you have any local comic stores to plug?
Bad Eddie's in Oxford, that's where I've been going. Look, we're going to get past this thing with Hickman, and I'm going to completely forgive them, I know, but they have been reliable. They're a great shop. I'm doing my best to support local. That's the only one around here, but I mean, despite the Hickman stuff, I mean, they're a great shop. They do their best to stay current. They've got a lot of old stuff in there, so they're a really good shop. A lot of good guys in there.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll do the same. Obviously, this has been the Word Young But Justice podcast. You're going to find us in all the apps, I believe, because we're on My Friends Network, Sports Opinion Networks, and I think we're Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. I think it's two different things. I'm an Android guy. Make fun of me all you want. And so I think I'm going to plug 3 stores because obviously New Jersey and Kentucky, Destination Comics in St. Matthews, right across from the mall. They're awesome guys. They've been hooking me up for the past couple of years. Conquest Comics in Bayville, New Jersey. That's where I went during the summer. And of course, my friend's dad's shop up in Trenton, New Jersey. I think it's the Comic Lair. And so if you are listening, definitely in Louisville, Kentucky, or in the Central Jersey Shore area, please check those shops out. Support your local comic stores. You can obviously, yes, if you can't make it to the store and you want to support a writer, buy Comixology, do all that. But if it would really, really be helpful if you start a pull at some of these stores, buy some toys, get some gifts. They are always awesome people, and if you just get your comics there, is always great conversations to be had, and they will definitely hook you up on whenever you got it. The local comic store experience is amazing.
Yeah.
Always support your local comic store. And any other last notes you got?
Let me check. I'm going to ask you something. You can it's going back to sports.
Go ahead.
Where are you at on Dansby Swanson?
Dansby Swanson. All right. It's a good end to end on. Dansby Swanson, I think he developed. He showed up in the postseason. I think people still have a lot of worries about him, but you know what? I think this is the year because I think he showed in the postseason when he literally carried the team from the 8th spot, I think it was. I say it's time, and I'm not going to say it's bust because I think he's earned the chance to really shine, and I think this is his year to break out, and that is my 2020 prediction for first one. This is Dansby Swanson's year to do something really special. So, that's what I got on my boy Dansby, or as we said in 2016, Dan's Bay.
Dan's Bay, oh boy.
We love it. As I've been telling other people, if we can leave some things in the 2010s, let's do it.
Is that one of them? You want to leave Dan's Bay where it is?
I might bring it up again if he hits a grand slam or something. But there's some other terms out there that are slipping my mind. I'm saying, yep, we're done with that. All right. So anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you so much for having me on for this first episode. This is a lot of fun. I hope I'm able to come back and do another one with you. This is great.
Yes. Read out some stuff. We could dive into the Marvel Unlimited and the DC Universe and catch it. We could do some more discussions. And when you get done with the House and Powers, we'll definitely talk. And you're just going to be like, wow. So, all right.
This is incredible.
This has been great for speaking. Have a great day, man.
You too.
So that was that. The first episode of We're Young With Just Us. Got off to a great start. I thank Kris Lowery for coming out and helping me out get this thing kick-started. As I referenced in the podcast, the next episode is going to be a great one. We're talking to it. Let me see if we can get this right again. I'm going to have to look down at my screen to take a look at Fabian Nicieza. Messed that up. I do not want to butcher that. By the time we get there, we're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff. He's a fellow Jersey boy like I am. We're talking about, his upcoming book, his comic experience. I think I might bring up Tim Drake a lot. And of course, he's a Rutgers alumni. So we're going to talk about the amazing season of Rutgers basketball that's coming up, which will of course be recorded after the Minnesota game that will be happening on tomorrow, which for me is January 19th. So thank you again for listening. please, like I said in the check out your local comic stores. The ones I want to shout out again are Destination Comics in St. Matthews, off of the Waterson Expressway across from the mall. They're amazing people. In New Jersey, Bayville and Conquest Comics. They are off of Route 9 on the Jersey Shore. Amazing guys. They have a lot of books. You get just lose yourself in their store. They're awesome. And of course, up in Trenton, Comic Slayer. That's my friend's dad, and said Mr. Spano. And shoot them a visit if you're up in the area. Again, visit your local comic stores. The experience is amazing. Support them. Read your favorite books, and get your favorite toys and all that stuff, because nothing beats the local comic store experience. So that's been that. Please join me again. This has been Kyle Doctor, and join me again in future episodes, because we're just going to have a lot of fun. And I hope to have a lot of great guests regarding both comics, sports. I want to talk about maybe comic business, sports business, of course. That's my area too. And it's just like various different topics. And I'm very excited. And again, thank you very much for listening, and peace out, guys. Have a great one.